Good morning, good evening to everyone who's joined us today. So thankful that you're able to join us because we have another special podcast here. I'm here with two very, very special people, very special guests that we're going to enjoy speaking with over the next few minutes as we prepare in anticipation for PTC'25, which, believe it or not, Isabelle, Dario, I don't want to scare you, but it is 69 days away. But who's counting, right? We have a lot to do in a short amount of time. But I'm really going to enjoy this conversation today because it is one of the highlights of the conference that is going to kick off PTC'25 in January. And it's a very, very obviously relevant topic to our industry. And pleased to, again, that both of you can join us today as we dive into a little bit deeper into what's going on in the industry, specifically on the mobile side, and how that's going to feed into, again, 69 days from now as we get ready for the annual conference in Honolulu, Hawaii. So let me start, although I'm sure both of you are very famous as you are in your respective worlds, but now you have to put on your MEF hats today, the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. So let me start with you, Dario. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. I'm slightly scared. You mentioned 69 days, and I'm sure that by the time the people are listening to this, the day are counting. So it's coming close. Get ready.
That's right. That's right. Good to see you again. And Isabelle, welcome.
Hello. Hello, Brian. How are you? I'm starting to prepare, by the way. I'm starting to book my meetings. I don't know if everyone else is doing that, but I've already started to book my interviews and looking at my little summer dresses, looking forward to it.
That's right. We should cover that looking at ourselves now on this podcast, that the three of us are probably overdressed. So that's always a good reminder for everyone who's planning on attending. Don't bring the jackets, don't bring the blouses, etc. Bring your aloha attire because that's appropriate for PTC'25. So as we dive into this, we're going to have a little bit limited time, but we want to cover all the important things happening between MEF and PTC coming up. But Dario, kick us off with what's on your mind right now, and what do you think MEF is going to be doing over the next 5-10 years? And then we'll segue into more specifically what's going to happen in January.
Well, look, sometimes the present is your gift, and you have to look at it. So these, or 2025, will be 25 years for MEF. So specifically, we are reminiscing and looking forward as well. So there's been a lot of changes. We are highlighting how mobile is essentially at the center of everybody's life. But there is something that is growing faster for our 25 years. So we rebranded the entire area enterprise communication. So what we don't see as much on a mobile associated with mobile, but it's all the enterprise services that happen in the background, all the things that are now starting to be done thanks to our phones, thanks to APIs and AIs and incredibly smart things that will make the life of the customers, but as well as the life of the enterprise, much easier. So I think that's one big chapter. But meanwhile, I've mentioned a lot of technology. Technology comes and goes, but all of that is very exciting. So we also call in an entire area in our MEF mobile evolution, because it's trying to catching up with all things that are happening now. It's not just a question of a cheese. There's going to be a 6 or 7 or 8, potentially 10, who knows. But I think there's more interesting things that will happen around in the IT elements. So those are the two things. But I got Isabelle here, which is one of the big announcements for 2025, because Isabelle has always been part of the MEF family, but now is also helping us at MEF to collect the people that are working in the wholesale, in the connectivity industry, read the PTC industry as well, because there's a lot to talk, there's a lot to align. Very happy to champion at PTC a bit more about the mobile stuff. And so it did happen last year, and you were so kind to invite us again. So many people came to our little sessions. We're really touched. So guess what? Excited. Whether it's not just for the next 5 to 10 years, but even in 2025, exciting to be talking about mobile and again at our PTC starting the year in that way.
Thanks so much, Dario. And you're absolutely right. PTC and MEF came together. You and I, actually, this is now full circle. I remember when we first met because of an introduction by Isabelle in London, if you remember, or actually maybe Barcelona, right? It was somewhere overseas in lots of our travel. But Isabelle was that glue that brought us together, and very excited that we were able to bring the MEF program to PTC'24. And now, like you said, we're bringing it back at PTC'25 in a month and a half. Now, Isabelle, as you said, has been part of the MEF family for a long time, but also I want to point out that Isabelle is, I've had the pleasure of working with you, Isabelle, for the past 2 years now. You started off at the advisory council with PTC. Obviously, you're a champion with the Young Professionals program, PTC Beyond. And then now, as part of the board of governors, you've been instrumental, a lot of the strategic direction we've been going in lots of these important areas. And now we focus on mobile in this particular section. So I guess welcome again, because now you're part of the family again, but now reintroduced on the mobile side and now as part of MEF. So again, welcome, Isabelle. And anything you'd like to share in terms of what you've been working on in the several weeks you've been part of MEF officially?
Well, before I do that, I would just like to point out that there's a reason why I'm part of both organizations, because I think both organizations are doing great things for the industry. Maybe something that not many people know is both organizations are non-profit. So it's the industry for the industry in both cases. And I think that is very important to know that these organizations are working hard to serve the industry, and people behind it are people from the industry. I think it makes all the difference in terms of what is delivered and what projects are what the topics and how the two businesses are run. So I think that's something maybe people should know, and that's partly why I want to spend some of my time to help both organizations to do good for the industry. So that's one thing. Now, yes, so I've been with MEF now maybe a month and a half or something like that. So it's been really busy to get to know everything that's going on. But I'm now, I think, I'm fully into the machine. So we're getting ready to do lots of different things, calls about fraud, calls about IoT. We've talked about travel eSIMs. We've talked already about a lot of topics. So a lot going on for the next year.
Terrific. Thank you, Isabelle. And this is PTC and MEF, and now in your own day job with Hot Telecom, you have so many hats. I don't know when you sleep. I don't think you do, but thank you for all your service and everything you do for the industry.
Thank you, Bryce. This is my little wrinkles. That's where they come from.
So let's dive in. Since we have both of you as part of representing MEF in this particular session, let's get into some of the details over what we're going to expect, not only in the mobile industry, but again, specifically how it's going to translate at PTC'25, because as we all know, the industry comes together in January. We touch on all sorts of different verticals and issues and what keeps these executives up at night. Mobile obviously has always been there, has always been part of PTC, has always been part of the digital infrastructure conversation, but now specifically here for PTC'25, Dario, let's start with you in terms of, you started to touch on the mobile revolution in your introduction. How can you outline how we're going to talk about that in January during your sessions, and then we can get a little bit more specific?
Well, absolutely. I found out a number that I'd like to share with you very recently, which is 1,712 years. Now, 1,712 years is the amount that every day people spend in front of their mobile phone. So there is no comparison in terms of the amount of time and activities, economic activities, social activities, which is consuming there. And that is reflected in the impact in terms of traffic, in connectivity, and in terms of our industry. But it's now become personal. So you want your personal things, and it has become very mobile as a mobile device and mobile-centric as an experience as well. And so I think whether you are connected on Wi-Fi using your phone, or whether you are on the go, and it's important, as we mentioned before, for the enterprise to have their level of knowledge, awareness, context. So that 1,712 years spent daily. We used to be saying in the website, mobile first, designed for mobile first. In telecom, as much as I think all networks are now equal and all are involved in delivering customer experience, there is a sense that mobile has got something new to bring to the table, and I'd like to see what's the impact. As a matter of fact, if you're a PTC and it's on a Sunday, the very first sessions which we at MEF are going to be doing is talking about exactly that, which is looking at what mobile is right now, almost the status, some of those numbers, but also some of the real impact that are having on the infrastructure side that we see more and more, and what we should expect as the next steps. Whether you're working on satellite or deep sea cable, actually there is a lot of relevance on what you do for mobile and what mobile does for you as well.
That's a great point and great start. And Dario, I'm glad you brought that up. We were reminding all of the attendees on this webinar that MEF sessions are going to be on Sunday at the start of PTC'25. So that is Sunday, January 19th. So we'll include that information in the follow-up as well. In addition to impact on mobile and the size of the market, that's an amazing statistic. As we get deeper into specifics, Isabelle, in our pre-chat, you were talking about a couple specific areas that you are starting to lead in terms of the MEF initiatives. Can you talk about those?
Yeah. So on the first day of the PTC, I'll have the pleasure of moderating the second and third session. So the second session will be on wholesale. So as we know, the wholesale is going through a significant evolution. There's a lot going on in that part of the industry. The voice is declining, the A2P is stagnating, there's a lot more fraud happening. So the wholesalers are faced with multiple challenges. So during the session, if you're interested to know what's the future of the wholesale business, we're going to talk about the evolution, the emerging trends, the technologies that you can use, the business model evolution, all the way from new opportunities to how to stay relevant. So we're going to have a few victims on stage. You know me, Brian and Dario, I like to have some victims on stage with me. So we'll have some quite high-level victims that will talk about the future of the wholesale business. And then the next panel will be on trust and security. So as you know, the fraud is increasing all the time, and it's becoming more and more challenging to address the fraud risks. So in my view, trust is paramount in the business space, because when you lose the trust of your customers, it's really hard to get it back. So we have to work together as an industry to fight the fraud as much as we can. So during that panel, we're going to talk about the biggest challenges, the innovation you can use to fight fraud, and how to foster trust through transparency, security frameworks, and last but not least, partnership. Because I think to fight fraud, you have to work together. We have to work as a big family to fight, because that's the only way we will succeed. Otherwise, it's impossible that we will.
That's terrific. And then Dario, mobile evolution, as we segue into some of the technicalities that Isabelle talked about. But mobile evolution, we're talking about APIs, AI, which continues to be, although the buzzword of the industry, regardless of what sector you're in, and then the Gs, right? We're still talking about 5G. Now we're talking about 5G SA, standalone. And now we're starting to talk about 6G and what the next revolution is going to be. What do you think is going to be that next big thing in mobile? Your crystal ball.
I think my crystal ball has been used and abused in the last few years, but let me see what I can see. I can look at other people's crystal balls from afar, and I probably like to copy a bit. Well, obviously what you said is pretty much right on. Over the years, I believe there's been a bit of a G fatigue. The network infrastructure, the last mile is very important. Still is so important, because growth is on data is going up so high. So we will want to see more and more of that. However, there are more interesting things right now to see as a new impact. You mentioned AI, you mentioned API, and network as well. So let's start with potentially the network APIs. This is using a mobile network as a way to sense what's happening to your customers, to your enterprises, to the things out there, and to do it automatically in a sharing of information. So all of a sudden, I would say analytics, the computational power of AI comes together, and automations. Very important to talk about automations, as everything we do within the telco industry is starting to automate. Now, if you were to looking at the real long-term forecast of a mobile evolutions as well, if you are in cloud computing as well, you start thinking of where are my cloud crunching happening? Is it on the edge of a network or at the core? And the new structures that we're now talking about allows us that flexibility. So if you are on the cloud computing, come and see us a bit more what mobile operators, and not just mobile operators, it's actually hyperscalers themselves, are doing in terms of using the mobile network as a way to disperse and provide faster or sometimes more relevant computational power. And finally, if the structure in telecommunications has not changed in a long time in mobile as well, and yet has been lots of back and forth, but the AI and availability of blockchain, potentially new identity solutions, might allow a completely new structure. We're talking about 10 years, 20 years from now, on the mobile networks and the telco networks as well. Rather than buying a network, you might be able to consume all network at the same time. So now, how are we going to be facing and how are you going to compete in this such a network? If you like the idea of DeFi, that's also something else we can talk about. I'll stop here because I believe there might be more topic, but I think it's going to scare so many people that we'll try to put all of that in an hour and a half of content. But believe it or not, we got people that will make it sound so easy and interesting to join. There will be a pleasure. So do come in the last sessions of the day on that Sunday, the 19th, which is all dedicated to what we call it mobile evolution. What comes next?
That's excellent. So let's summarize for everyone who's attending. So the MEF sessions at PTC'25, as Dario and Isabelle have summarized for us as well. So we're going to be focusing on 4 key areas. So the impact of mobile as an industry, the wholesale evolution, security and trust, and the mobile evolution. And so what's great about the sessions at PTC and Dario and Isabelle's teams are that we're not here to commercialize what MEF is doing and pat MEF on the back, but they are really on the forefront of what's happening in the industry. And so the content, the speakers, the topics that they'll be talking about are relevant to everyone in digital infrastructure. And so applaud both of you for bringing that to PTC because, again, it's important to everyone, as you both have mentioned. Isabelle, what in your kind of maybe consumer hat, but also your professional hat, what excites you right now about mobile? You've been with MEF for a few weeks now, but obviously you've been in the industry a long time. But kind of what you've learned is what excites you about what you're seeing in working with Dario and team.
Well, first of all, Dario's team is amazing because as is yours, Brian. And I'm not saying that because, we're here, but it is true. You both amaze me on what you deliver in terms of the amount of events that you deliver, the content that you deliver. It's absolutely amazing. But in terms of both your teams, I'm pretty impressed. And I'm not easily impressed. As you know, Brian, you know me well. I'm quite difficult, but so far I'm pretty impressed. I think what's impressed me is that, and I'm going to be a bit cliche, is that mobile is everywhere and is everything. It's in devices, it's in your own device at home, but also in everything that is surrounding us. So mobile is everywhere. So even if you work in infrastructure that you think mobile has nothing to do with me, it's not true. It impacts all of the businesses. It's at the core, because before it was the fixed network, now it's really the mobile network that generates most of the traffic. So this is at the core of all of our businesses in telecom. So that's why this session, I think, is really important because you need to understand where it's going, because that will impact your business going forward.
And Dario, same question to you. What excites you? I know there's a lot going on. Obviously, you're on the front lines every single day, and we'll segue into kind of some of the hot topics like AI in a minute. But what generally is exciting you on a day-to-day basis on what you see from your members in the industry?
There are, I think, very few industries that can count themselves at the center of so many important intersections. This technology, as we leave it, is in telecom is becoming, quickly adopted. It's incredible what we see right now. Equally, regulations. There is a clear service to the nation, the industry, the citizen. So there is quite an important element of policy involved in that. But the other element that I think is incredible is the social element. We are now seeing how the telecom, the services, the content itself is changing the way we are interacting. Interesting discussions we had recently with the Financial Times and Google. They've done a research shows how, our time attention is now shrinking of a new generation. As to say, I should call myself out of it. How the way they consume simple services such as the news. And that's happening as a generational trend. And that's where telecom and what we do today in terms of delivering those network and those experiences is really changing people out there. So not that many people can say that at the same time they can have a look at the social, the demographic, the political, and the technological aspects all coming together. There is never a dull moment at MEF, I would say. And it's not just because of our friendly team, as say the Isabelle. It's really lots of things that happen.
So I'm going to segue into what you just said is in terms of there's never a dull moment. And there's probably two words that you two have probably never heard of: artificial intelligence, right? I say that jokingly. AI, obviously everywhere. And consumers may not realize it, but you're absolutely right, Dario. It's everywhere. It's every day in our lives. Every time someone looks up a phrase or a term on ChatGPT or something similar, and now you have these major device companies like Apple and Samsung who are now integrating it into their devices, right? So AI is everywhere, literally everywhere. How is MEF approaching this within your ecosystem? In your ecosystem, what are members focusing on specifically with AI? Good, bad, challenges?
We had a chance to reflect on that. We were in an AICom, an event we co-sponsored with Jeff Pulver. AI is a great tool, but it's still a tool in the hands of people and humans. And so I'm not afraid of AI as much as I'm afraid of humans sometimes. There are some people that will do fantastic jobs and are doing fantastic job with AI. Equally, there is AI used for the wrong things, and we've seen incredible amount of growth in fake identity creation and so on. One of the stats we've seen recently, that kind of crime has increased 700% in 6 months. AI is a great thing, but unfortunately, it's not the artificial intelligence, but the natural ignorance, I think, which is probably worrying us a lot. Going back to some of the applications and some of the things that excite us, there are a lot of things that can be done right now by AI. Unfortunately, some of the companies are picking themselves on the hope of just muscles. As muscle as it is, it's important, but somebody else might be able to come with a bigger muscles and do a better job. What the kind of applications of AI where we are seeing that are really successful is the one that takes the power of AI and some of the magic dust, which is understanding a customer, a value, a concern, a market better than anybody else. And that's where we see some of the long-term, potentially some of the real change in things, who is going to apply AI to something with their own knowledge and additional thing.
Yeah. So that's a good transition to challenges. I mean, certainly there's lots of opportunities, lots of exciting things going on in mobile. And Isabelle, you mentioned this in terms of the 4 pillars that MEF will be focusing on in the sessions. You're the 2 that you'll be leading in terms of wholesale evolution and security and trust. What else? I guess what do you think are the biggest headaches in the industry right now? Or not headaches, but what are some of the challenges that you also see, Isabelle, in addition to wholesale and security and trust?
Well, I guess you will be surprised to know that I will say young people. Surprise, surprise. I think it is one of the biggest challenges of our industry as a whole. The lack of young people and the difficulty of attracting young people to the industry, because it is our future. You know, I'm not getting any younger, and neither is some of you. Maybe Brian, you're still a youngie, but I'm sure Dario feels like me. We're going towards the end of our career, and then there is a big hole to who is going to replace us, who is going to learn before we leave as well, not just replace us as we leave. They have to come in before the next generation leaves to learn from the next generation. So I think that's, for me, the biggest challenge. We have to work as an industry together. We have to rebrand our industry to make it more relatable for the young people. We have to let them know we exist, and we have to make a place for them. And I would say counterpart, funny enough, it's keeping the older generation or the more experienced generation in as long as they want to stay, because they have an enormous amount of knowledge that they need to transfer to the young generation. So how do we change the way we work to make a place for these people that may not want to work 5 days a week or 8 or 9 hours a day, but still they have a way to participate in our industry and share their knowledge as long as they want. So for me, that's the 2 biggest challenges. It's not the only ones, but obviously they're the 2 that are in my mind.
No, that's very important. And if I could just take a quick minute to plug some of the education that we are doing at the annual conference. And again, a lot of credits and kudos to Isabelle, who came up with the idea 2 years ago, 3 years ago, to bring a PTC Beyond focus on young professionals. And so it has evolved nicely as now it's the PTC Beyond Academy Masterclass that we're hosting at the annual conference is taking place. January 17th and 18th on site in person. Terrific panel of industry experts, executives within their own right who are going to be teaching courses over those 2 days. And so, again, to reiterate what Isabelle's saying, there's a big gap, not only on the executive side where the next C-suite will come from, but also on the mid-manager side, where are we going to get people who are now in the industry 3, 5, 7 years? How are we going to get them to graduate to the next level, becoming a mid-level manager, and then down the road into C-suite? So if you're interested in that, whether it's the PTC community or the MEF community, please feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to share some more information regarding the Young Professionals Program at PTC. So thank you, Isabelle.
But Brian,
and Dario.
Before you continue, I would like to correct something. PTC Beyond was not just my idea. It was a team effort. So I just want to, it's quite important. It wasn't just me. It was a group of people that were passionate about the topic. And I want to highlight that MEF also is doing a lot with the young people. Next week, I'll be in London at the Omnichannel event, and I'll be doing fireside chat with 2 young women to talk about their view of how they want to be interacted with from the brands. So on the marketing, the selling side. So MEF is also doing a lot of around the young people.
Terrific. Thank you. And Dario, on the topic of challenges, is as the head of MEF, what keeps you up at night?
Biggest 17 months old baby right now. That's a real answer. But which is great for the future generation, very future generation. I think, interestingly, it's culture. Even a small company like ours, we believe that we have a certain way of things. Never rest on your laurels. You always need to change. But equally, changing in culture is that kind of secret ingredient, which you're very scared about. And if I reflect back about some of the elements, we're going to be in our little, sessions, we're going to reflect to. Some of it are really reflect about change and how to appropriate change, learning and how to learn. So the wholesale sessions, but I think is a lot of change. Learning, which is all about the impact session, trust and security. Trust and nothing else. I think there's another great value in culture and how we look around it. So I think in a way, there's a nice comparison between my main concerns and the 4 main ingredients of culture as I understand it right now. So as another obvious plug, come and see us, come and talk to us at PTC and come and pick a bit of a mobile element.
You took my next question. You answered my next question already, Dario, is how can the PTC community interact more with the MEF community and family? So we definitely want to continue to promote that your session will be taking place. You will be there. Isabelle will be there on Sunday, the 19th of January. How else can MEF members and PTC attendees connect outside of just staying in person? What are some of the opportunities throughout the year that both of you want to promote?
Well, I will re-establish the fact is PTC was a very successful experience and test for last year for MEF members. By the way, we're also going to have our little community get-together going as it happened last year. It's surprisingly how many people we discovered that wanted to go to PTC but haven't yet, or that were going there but they didn't know about each other. So now we found a community which is there. And if you want to be part of that community outside of a PTC element as well, we have 44 events spread across the years, smaller events, I would say, trying to bring together some of the different communities. We're going to be in Malaysia, we're going to be in Australia, we're going to be obviously in many places. One where we met you, Brian, first place, which is the biggest overall, is in Barcelona mobile capital, and the MWC event. Realistically, there are many other events between the US, Latin America, Europe. Please have a look. Come to our website, press on your keyboard those keys, MEF.events.
Well, 44 events throughout the year for MEF, and then where Isabelle's always on the road. I don't know how you two sleep, but I am very, I'm admired. I admire both of you for the strength and vigor that you two both bring. So that being said, I want to plug again, visit MEF's website. Also, as MEF's program is official and the speakers are confirmed, we'll continue to promote those on PTC's website, ptc.org. MEF sessions at PTC'25 will be on Sunday, January 19th. We hope you will all be there. and to learn more about what's going on with MEF, but not only MEF, but also what's going on in the industry. Again, what keeps executives up at night? We're talking about the 4 pillars again, in terms of impact on mobile, wholesale evolution, security and trust, and the mobile evolution. So we hope to see you all there. PTC'25, January 19th through the 22nd. MEF sessions on Sunday, January 19th. That being said, Dario, Isabelle, it was great to spend time with both of you doing it over. I'm going to call this a form of mobile communication, right? We're on video, but this is all driven by digital infrastructure and mobile. I'm sure we'll be chatting, so that's mobile as well. But looking forward to seeing both of you in 69 days at PTC'25 in person, where we can continue the discussion. So again, thank you both. Thank you both for partnering with PTC.
Thank you, Brian. Looking forward to seeing you in Hawaii.